Entitled, believing oneself to be inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. Parents, people who chose the woohoo option in The Sims. Today, I, Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, will be taking you through some of the most entitled parents here on the platform. Please join me in these tales of entitlement, and if you like what you see by the end of the video, give it a like and subscribe with notifications, that way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest we've got going on here. Without further ado, SoCal Courtney presents We Don't Give Trophies Here, Lady. I taught martial arts several years ago, and I've seen my fair share of entitled parents. However, this lady and her kids are forever burned into my brain. I taught at a regular studio, but on the side, to market the studio, I'd run a 6-week after-school Parks and Rec program. In my program, I taught forms, there'd be a couple of days of sparring, and board-breaking basics. I think some parents and kids come in thinking they're gonna be these MMA cage fighters, but I digress. Looking back, I think the most entitled parents were ones that put their kids in that program. I was starting a new session, and this woman, EM, brought her 2 sons, 6 and 12-ish, in to the class. I greet them. Hey, I'm SoCal Courtney. Welcome to Parks and Rec class. What are your names? Where is the instructor? I am. I teach over at X Martial Arts Studio on Y Street. I was expecting a man. We really want a man to teach our sons. Which she turns to her kids and tells them that I fight like a girl. While this was very annoying, I thought maybe the kids would be okay, or maybe she was just brash. I was wrong. The 12-year-old on day 1 wanted to spar me. I told him that isn't what we're going to do, and that we would spar later in the class session once everyone learns the basics. I invited EM to stay to watch the classes so I could ensure that I was capable and very qualified as an instructor, thinking this would finally put her mind at ease. For the next 6 weeks, I had to deal with the fighting like a girl or where is a male instructor comments. I ensured that while we do have male instructors, I'm the only one that runs this program, and at our studio, there's a teaching rotation so everyone gets an opportunity to teach. However, I am the one that oversees the other instructors. Oddly enough, these folks signed up at our studio. On their first day, EM, 2 sons, and an older sister walk in. I greet them just like I would any student and ask for the information to set up accounts. I'm getting things squared away, and the sister, who was maybe my age, as I was in my early 20s, made the comment I've heard time and time again.
I bet you hit like a girl.
At this time, I was very much over the comments. I get it the first couple of times, but this gets old quickly. So I say back to her, I have a waiver you can sign if you'd like, and then we can spar. She declined and laughed it off, saying she was joking. Fine. EM goes on and on about male instructors, how her husband only wants her kids to be taught by men. Her youngest son was the sweetest, kindest kid. I really enjoyed teaching him, and I think that he would have gone far if they would have stayed with the studio. However, the 12-year-old was an EK and had this chip on his shoulder thinking he was owed the world. I tried to empathize, as I've seen kids from all backgrounds and walks of life, but this kid made it difficult. Over the next several weeks, I would only pair EK with male opponents because I noticed that when he would fight with the girls, he would punch way more aggressively. He started to get more and more warnings, and it was just a bad time. EM advises that if I were a male instructor, this wouldn't be happening. I told her that isn't the case. To be honest, I wanted to just say that I think there was a lot of discipline issues at home. Finally, tournament time rolls around. EM approaches me and asks about trophies. At our tournaments, we just have gold, silver, and bronze medals. That's it. She started to demand that we start giving trophies. I told her that while some studios and larger tournaments do have trophies, we just don't provide them at this time. EM demands that we present her kids with trophies that she planned on buying them. I told her that I'm absolutely not gonna do that. She told me I was crushing her kids' hearts. Eventually, I just tell her, "Ma'am, for the last time, I'm not presenting your kids' names with a trophy. It isn't fair to the others who've worked just as hard. If you want to give them trophies on your own time outside of this tournament, you can do that." EM and co. roll up to the tournament. EK loses. She brought those trophies with her, left us a bad Yelp review, and dipped from the studio. We never saw them again. Don't know what happened to them. Hope they found a sole male instructor, and I hope that the younger son kept up with it, and I hope he hasn't adapted the same attitude that his parents and older brother have. I don't teach anymore, but I hope my kids get into it. Lots of good memories. But man, some parents, am I right? I don't know about you guys, but it sounds to me like that whole family, aside from the youngest, needs the Cobra Kai treatment, if you know what I'm saying. To clarify, not where they learn karate, but where a bunch of kids on mopeds show up and beat them up. Hope I say this correctly, but Celino Felix Sapphic presents Mother-in-Law Karen Screams at Us on Our Wedding Day. The cast, we've got Mill, mother-in-law, Sil, the Karen's crazy sister-in-law, Sil 2, my other younger sister-in-law, Hubby, my husband, and SM, Hubby's stepmom. Finally, lastly, and not least, SF, Hubby's stepdad. Bit of background. This happened pre-shutdown around August of 2019. I was 9 months pregnant with our son at the time of our wedding. My mother-in-law is a literal Karen. That is her real name, and she lives up to it. On top of that, my sister-in-law has taken after her mother, unfortunately, and is the same level of crazy. My husband, who is 25, doesn't get along with them either, and they always end up arguing and yelling at each other. Yeah, I've asked him why he hasn't just cut them off, because at this point, they have no happy times together. Ever. It's just incoherent screaming and crying 95% of the time. He says he hasn't cut them off yet because of his other sister, my sister-in-law too, age 10. He loves sister-in-law too, but recently she's been turning more and more like her mother as well, and pushing hubby away. Mother-in-law has even coached her to make nasty remarks about hubby's dad to him, who she didn't even know because they don't have the same father. Now the story. Sorry for long background info. I'm American and living in the UK, and needed a spouse visa to be able to stay with hubby, so we were hastily planning a wedding before our son was born. As I was about to be sent back to America due to my student visa expiring, I needed my new visa ASAP. It was a little city hall wedding with 2 guests allowed. Since none of my family live in the UK, hubby invited his 2 parents, of course, mother-in-law and father-in-law. Fine by me. His dad's cool, and I could handle dealing with mother-in-law for 20 minutes. When hubby told his mother that he was inviting her and his dad to the wedding, she flipped her crap. She started screaming at hubby, saying things like,
I am not standing next to that awful He-Man. He threatened my life. I don't want to be anywhere near him for any amount of time. I don't feel safe near him.
People who don't know who Skeletor is are going to be really confused by this one. Yeah. Note that father-in-law is actually one of the nicest people I've ever met, and it's actually mother-in-law who's not only threatened father-in-law's life and nearly ran him over in her car, but she's also thrown sharp objects at him and physically abused him. They divorced many years ago when hubby was still a kid. She cheated. They're both remarried now and have nothing to do with each other. Though when hubby brought this up with father-in-law, he said he would have been fine standing next to her for about a 20-minute ceremony. They wouldn't even have to speak to each other. Hubby came back to mother-in-law and told her, well, that's who I want at our wedding. If you can't stand there and be civil for 15 to 20 minutes, then just don't come. I'll invite stepmom, father-in-law's wife instead. This led to mother-in-law sobbing again. Hubby just didn't care and walked out. She then turned to me and asked how he could ask her to stand next to such a god-awful man for any amount of time, and asked if I could talk hubby into disinviting father-in-law in favor of her and her husband. I said no, they're his parents and he can invite whoever he wants. Hubby works in the army and was away most of the week as his camp was 2 hours away from where we were living at the time, which is unfortunately mother-in-law's house as we were in between houses at the time. While he was away, a few days before our wedding, mother-in-law cornered me in our bedroom. She threw a full-blown tantrum about how I was
taking away her right to see her firstborn son get married,
and how all of this is my fault. Me being an over-emotional and hormonal pregnant woman, sobbed back at her that we never uninvited her, and that she was still welcome to come. She snapped back,
you essentially uninvited me when you decided to invite hubby's dad.
I said to her that father-in-law has every right to be there as much as she does, and once again that it was hubby's parents, so it was hubby's choice. I didn't say it, but according to hubby, all the bad things and the abuse that happened was on her end, not father-in-law's. I reminded her that she actually has the chance to go while my dad doesn't have the opportunity at all to see his firstborn get married. He didn't have the money to fly over from America. He would never get to walk me down the aisle. He would never get to give me away. He couldn't even watch. That didn't stop her. I just let her rage at me for another 10 minutes while I zoned out at that point before she stormed out. Hubby wasn't happy when I told him what happened. Skip to our wedding day, and mother-in-law has decided to take a vacation and is now long gone. Now screaming at hubby that,
"How dare we have our wedding when she can't attend?"
what? This has set sister-in-law off, who's still at the house, and she's in a bad mood, saying, how could we do that to her poor mother? Hubby, walking out with SF shoes, she exploded in the same way that mother-in-law does and shouted at him about what a degenerate he is, and how he can't just steal shoes from his stepdad when they aren't home. This led to a big argument with her and hubby. On our wedding day, mind you. We left the house with hubby pissed off. The nerve of sister-in-law to scream at him on his wedding day over something not only trivial, but something he had permission to do is something I have never gotten over. She never even apologized, to this day. The ceremony was short and sweet, but still the happiest day of my life. Father-in-law and SM attended and then took us out for a fancy lunch. We parted ways so hubby and I could enjoy the rest of the day together. Hubby and I went and got dessert at a nice gelato shop, and it was going well, and while we were there, we updated our social media statuses to married. Not a good idea, apparently, because while we were sitting there enjoying our gelato, hubby's phone rang, and it's none other than mother-in-law. Hubby picked up, thinking it was going to be her congratulating us, but I knew better. Immediately, she began screaming at us again, which drew the attention of others in the shop, saying,
"How could we do this to her yet again on her special day, knowing well she couldn't be there with us?"
Confused, hubby asks what we've done this time to set her off.
"It was my right to tell the family my son is married, and you took that away from me too. I had to hear it from my sister that you had already updated your Facebook status, and that now the surprise is ruined. I already couldn't come because she,"
referring to me,
"didn't invite us."
hubby just hung up. She's fake as fuck. She tries to act nice, but I can still see the resentment she has for me because apparently it's my fault that she couldn't stand next to the man she cheated on for less than 20 minutes for her son's sake. I wanted to cut her off, but hubby keeps saying yes when she asks to come over. I ask him why, and he just says, "I don't know, I just keep letting her in." So now she's coming over this weekend, and quite honestly, I might snap at her for the comments she made about our son. No happy ending. She's still in our lives because hubby can't cut her off for some reason. Maybe it's just because she's his mom, despite the fact that all they do is fight and leaving him pissed the rest of the day. I expect her to be fighting when she comes over, to be honest, but I've made it clear that I'm not going with him when he goes to visit her, and neither is our son. He can go alone. She undermines our parenting, and our son always comes home ill after being over there. I would never force hubby to cut her off. I don't know how a mother-child bond feels, as I didn't have a mom. I can't even imagine how he feels. Thank you if you made it this far. I'd love to hear y'all's mother-in-law wedding horror stories, and hopefully yours has a happier ending than mine. Much love, you guys. Mini update: Wales is going back into lockdown, where hubby's family lives. So now mother-in-law can't come over.
"When lockdown is over, I will be back, and I will get you, He-Man! Ah ha ha ha!"
And now for the final story of the evening. Faco 5045 presents, "Why are you eating that?" This happened yesterday, and I can't stop laughing about it. My city is full of Eugenia trees. I think the correct name in English is magenta cherry, which you can easily find in any park. Eugenia berries are edible, and when I'm out walking my dog, I normally take some of the branches and eat them, because I like their earthly, bittersweet flavor. I admit, not the most hygienic habit. So yesterday, while going home, I was walking through the park when I decided I wanted berries. So I went to a tree and basically took enough to fill a small plastic bag I had in my backpack. While I was picking them, 3 kids, maybe 6 or 7 years old, approached me and asked what I was doing. By the way, some of the lockdown restrictions in my city were lifted up. Dumb idea, but it is what it is. I told them I was gonna eat berries, and they were truly amazed by the concept of eating berries from a real tree. I guess they had only eaten fake tree berries? They asked me if I could give them some. I don't like being rude to children, but I'm pretty precautious. especially if I don't know them, as I'm not a fan of being sued. So I told them the ones I had were mine and they should ask their mothers to pick some for them. They didn't make much of a fuzz about it and went running to a guy I guess was their dad or maybe their uncle on the other side of the park, while I continued with my berry picking. Suddenly, I had an angry man shouting in my ear, "Why are you eating those? You some kind of hippie? Are you trying to get high?"
What?
You heard me. You're one of those loony toonies thinking about getting high on plants and mushrooms. Dude, these are just wild berries. No different from a blackberry. Look it up. Eugenia plant. This guy takes his cell phone out, makes a quick Google search, and sees I'm telling the truth. He then grabs some himself and takes a huge bite. Big mistake because they have a hard seed inside. He spits them out in pain and gets angry again.
What? No, this tastes awful. It's got a seed inside. Why'd you want to eat these?
I like the flavor.
You, sir, are stupid.
Okay, I guess. I don't know what reaction he was expecting, honestly. He just went away while throwing curses to the air and rubbing his jaw. I saw the kids talking to him again, maybe asking for more berries, but he just shouted and then they left the park. I guess the lesson for today was not biting into something you don't know the texture of. And there you have it, folks. Today's truly thrilling tales of tubular entitlement. If you liked them, be sure to leave a like on the video, as well as make sure you're subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on, that way you could stay up to date with all the latest and greatest. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and it's been fun, but I gotta go. But check in tomorrow, and I'll be sure to see you guys in the next video.